Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report, the last Say Report of our third year. This is episode 156, Sejohn. We're about to go into our senior year of podcasting. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, I hope we graduate.
I mean, we graduate. We should have graduated in the summer, but we had to take extra courses. That's why we're doing it in January.
Okay.
So,
Oh, man. Does this mean that we missed pod prom?
no, we got to go to two pod proms. We got to go to regular pod prom, and then we got an extra pod coming.
Oh, no.
Pod coming
Terrible.
does not sound good
That's
at
not
all.
good.
All right,
Sorry.
so
Sorry that this bit led to that word.
welcome to the Say Report. I'm Devon Decker, and of course, my host companion is Sejohn Severwick. And because you can't see us, we decided that to cap off our third year of podcasting, we'd make it so we couldn't see.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we're doing it. Sejohn will tell us why, but currently we are recording this podcast blindfolded.
Well, this is hard mode. That's what it is we need to graduate. We need to prove our mettle here in the podcasting landscape. And so we're doing this hardcore hard mode.
Yeah, this is our final exam.
recording our audio medium blindfolded.
Okay, so I'm gonna just like straight poop real quick. I have a blindfold on. I have a Toomey blindfold on that I got from my parents when they took an international flight. But I still close my eyes as I'm doing this.
I keep running into my mic.
But it also makes sense because in the third Matrix movie, Neo is blind.
Yeah.
So we're like Neo right now. Mr. Anderson.
Okay. Yeah. More justifications for my nonsense.
Yeah.
My loopy jet lag nonsense.
Yeah. So this should be fun. I have a glass of water too, so I'm gonna attempt to take a drink of that blindfolded.
It's gonna be good.
Sejohn, fill the space.
I gotta say that a lot of these visual gags that we're doing are going over really, really well with this audio medium. I'm very proud that this is what we presented as our final exam.
Well, you know what I have to say, like straight up, is this is also a test of you, the listener, to see how much you trust us. Do you believe that we are blindfolded right now?
Oh, God.
I do, because I'm blindfolded.
If anything, this podcast depends. Well, right, but this podcast depends on trust.
I think everything depends on trust, and that's an important thing that I'm going to touch on a little bit later in this episode.
Ooh.
But Sejohn, why don't you go first? I feel like you have more to talk about.
Well, it's not entirely. Well, so I just spent the last weekend in New York City.
New York City?
Yeah, I spent the entire time thinking the song New York, New York, but the only lyrics I know are actually Springfield, Springfield. It was, my running soundtrack for the weekend. We decided as a family to go out to New York City. We got to go hang out in Times Square for a bit. Got out to Greenwich Village for a while. But I only got back about 2 hours ago. So, as I said, it's still a bit jet-lagged and loopy as I sit here recording with you tonight.
Perfect. That's fantastic. I had wanted to see you, but you killed your phone, and it made it difficult to get in touch with you.
Yes, yeah. Well, my phone could not handle the big city with the towers and subway systems and stuff. It just, yeah, anybody who's wondering if I'm wearing a blindfold or not, just listen for every time I run into my mic. So my phone just couldn't survive the trip, the poor guy. Looking into that. We had a good time. As I said, we were kind of in the Midtown, like Times Square area. But we did make it out of there for a little bit on Sunday, yesterday. But I spent most of my time just walking around Times Square for 2 days. It was nuts.
That's good. How many Elmos did you see?
Three different Elmos. One really good Thanos. A few different variations on Batman. You have Christian Bale Batman, Michael Keaton Batman, comic book Batman, all sorts of good stuff.
Any brown Spider-Man?
Oh no, we did have a couple of Spider-Man. The big thing is those LOL dolls that are really big right now.
No, I don't know what that is at all.
they're like take like a Bratz doll and then make them instead of like tweens, they're actually like 3-year-olds. Like that's like the whole concept behind that line, from what I can gather from the advertising at least. And then like they're really popular because you know you get them out of fucking like gachapon machines at the grocery store. Like they're nothing.
Oh,
They're
okay,
and so
good.
they're really easy to like get, right. And so anyway, they're so popular that there was a bunch of people dressed up as like different ones of them walking around Times Square getting pictures taken with kids and stuff too. So it's like one of those weird things. Man, but Times Square is still crazy. It's everything that you think it is, obnoxious and out of this fucking world, but also just a blast.
Good. I'm glad. Well, I haven't been to Times Square in 11 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I realized how long it had been because I looked up at what used to be the Coca-Cola sign where like the cap would come off and all the lights would like shoot out. But it's no longer that. Now it's just a weirdly still yet kind of motion-based image of Gal Gadot drinking smart water. So like her face isn't moving and her body isn't moving, but like her clothes are blowing in the wind and her hair is blowing in the wind. So it's really awkward because it's just staring out over the square at all of these people, and it's like this Dorian Gray-esque picture of Gal Gadot up there.
slowly aging.
Yeah, if she ever comes to New York City, suddenly she'll age 20 years.
I feel like people don't really get the Dorian Gray thing. Like, is he gonna live forever? Or is he just not aging on the outside?
I think that part of the deal is that he doesn't get sick or anything, right?
Yeah,
Because like
like
his whole
everything goes to the photo.
right. So yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, even that would mean death, right?
Yeah, I
I don't
guess.
know.
I just someone was like, he could never die until he sees the picture, and I'm like, there's more to it than that. Like,
I
I'm
do
fairly
know that
certain
like
immortality is part of the deal, but
yeah, like I do think like sexy versions of Dorian Gray always make him like 600 years old or something like that. Whereas like I don't know if it's ever established how old he actually is throughout the events of the short story because it is also a very short story, isn't it?
no, it's a novel.
Really?
I bought it in 2004, the
Oh,
first time I
I must have
visited
had like a
Maine.
child's illustrated classic of it or something
Yes,
like
there's a
that.
Child's Illustrated classic of it as well. But I own the Oscar Wilde novel
Okay.
of Dorian Gray, and it's I don't like Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde and I have beef, and it really boils down to one phrase that I've never been a fan of, and I've just come up against it my entire life being in a creative field, and
Oh.
that's the phrase "only dull people are brilliant at breakfast." Because that's an excuse. That's that's Oscar Wilde being like, I can't be fun all the time. Don't talk to me until I've had my coffee, but said with wit. I've never liked that because I feel like a truly brilliant person is brilliant all day. They don't get tired.
I mean, I think it's probably just a hangover thing, man. He's probably just saying that like brilliant people also party.
Yeah,
It's like having like that Einstein with his tongue out poster in your room.
right. It's just one of those things that I never got. And then like I read, Dorian Gray, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of words that are not saying much of anything.
And they got paid by the word back then.
Yeah, it's like chapters and chapters and chapters before you even meet him.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's the way that it always went. In
That's
those,
how
like,
books
gothic
went back
novels,
then.
right?
It's like I should pick that up and read it again. I'm sure that I wonder if I sold it. I'd like to think I kept it. Like I got like memories with it. For some reason I kept Nick Hornsby's Slam, which is a book I got
Okay.
for like $1 at
Nice.
a bookstore that was closing. I've never
Mhm.
read it. And I can't say that I'm much of a fan of Nick Hornsby either. Maybe I'm not a fan of like
Isn't he's like about a boy and that sort of
About
stuff,
a
right? Like,
Boy. High Fidelity
High
is
Fidelity
really
is
the
the
big
yeah.
one that everybody thinks of. And
Mhm.
that's why I read it. Is like I had a group of guys that I was friends with in high school, and we all decided to read High Fidelity. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I don't like the movie. You know, after we lavish praise on John Cusack a week ago, I'm not a fan of High Fidelity, the
I
film.
fucking love that movie. God, I love that movie.
Yeah,
But
okay, that's
yeah, yeah, but it's fine. No, it's like
you're allowed. It's just I don't, and I think it's not satisfying. Like it just kind of ends, and that's
oh
sort of
yeah,
the issue that happens with the book as well. Is
yeah.
that you don't really ever get a climax, in either
There's no
one of them.
catharsis at all.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So, and also, but the reason why I will give the book above the movie is in the book they talk about Evil Dead. No, in the movie it's Evil Dead 2 that they talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And that always seemed odd to me that these three guys are talking about Evil Dead 2. In the book it's Reservoir Dogs. And that like makes a lot more sense. Also the book is set in England.
Yeah, right.
Which makes more sense as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it gave us Jack Black as an actor, not for the first time, but as like one of his big prominent early roles.
Exactly.
And not Lana Del Rey. Is it Lana Del Rey who plays the girl that he ends up dating?
No.
Or is it's Press? I don't know. I've just never been a fan of it. And also the movie skips over one of the 5 girls, and his whole thing is like top 5 lists of the heartaches in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like skips from girl 2 to girl 4. And it's like, well, that was weird. Cause like, you just, like, that girl doesn't exist. Catherine Zeta-Jones is in that, setting the pathway for America's Sweethearts.
Right.
God. I mean, it's a movie. It's an important movie. But yeah, it's just, I don't really like him either. But I love Douglas Adams. Like Douglas Adams. So it can't just be like, I don't like English authors. I just don't like these 2 specific English authors.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but
sorry.
I just now I'm sitting here trying to think about like how did we even get to High Fidelity? But yeah, Nicholas Hornsby, right? I don't know, man. I was in that right grouping when High Fidelity came out, and then of course everybody was like, well, I've read the book and the book is better. That whole thing that always happened back then. And like, so everybody around me was very into him. And so I kind of picked up on it like through osmosis, and I've never like disliked it, but I gotta be honest, I don't know if I've ever like gone out and sought out one of his books on my own before. Like maybe at some point I sought out High Fidelity but that's about it.
So I read High Fidelity.
I do love the movies that get made out of his books though.
Yeah, he does. He's a big fan of that. Like that's what he feels like one of those classic authors like Capote or Lee where this will make a lovely film.
Right,
like they were writing for the adaptation. Like he all of his books read like that. And then it's really strange when like Fever Pitch is him as well. And there's one that's about soccer like the book, and then you have the Drew Barrymore Jimmy Fallon one by the Farrelly brothers. So it's strange. His books are like they're this weird enigma. And also I've never really like I read that book in high school and I'm like, eh. And then working on Beauty and the Beast in college, Julius was like, get a book because you're going to be sitting around. And I'm like, frig. And I like looked through the books that were backstage and found a copy of High Fidelity. And I'm like, well, I'm older now. Maybe it'll speak to me as a college man.
Yeah.
And it didn't at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't care enough about him as a writer to jump to his defense. I really just like the movies that get made out of his books, but I'm also a sucker for that kind of thing, you know?
I get you. I feel you. Yeah. So is that it? You don't have any other? You're like, I'm excited to talk because I got stuff I can like really dig my hands into.
No, I mean, like, New York was a blast. So we were there technically for a conference where essentially artists from all over the country will come and play like 15-minute sets in front of agents and all sorts of different like venue appliers and stuff like that, so that they can try out to be in these places essentially. And so I got to sit through like a few of those. The quality varies. Everybody there is, I believe, represented by an agent. I'm not like heavily involved, so I don't know how all like the ins and outs works. Like, so I don't know how some of these groups got there. Like, I heard some horror stories about some groups about like changing wigs in the middle of sets and it just looking just horrendous and butchering classic songs and things like that. And so like I don't know how you get into a conference like this sounding like that, other than like your agent pays for you to be there and he just sells the shit out of you, which seems like a lot of what's going on. But then at the same time, there's just some awesome shit. There's some really good like musicals that will show off like a song or two there. There's an entire section of the whole thing that is actually cordoned off to the Henson Theater down just like a couple blocks away, right? And you can go there and see there's like a round of different puppetry things that go on as well. It's pretty wild. But yeah, so like going between that and then just kind of wandering around Times Square and taking in New York City for the first time since I was like 15 was just like kind of an experience, man. Like a lot has changed, but also a lot has not. Like it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I feel like my New York is outside of the Gramercy Theater because there was a time where I was going to shows there, getting there at like noon the day of the show, and just sitting on the street and interacting with the life that would pass me by.
Yeah.
Like I said, I honestly don't think I've been to Times Square since I realized that Adam Levine's guitar that I held and handled at the show that they played at the Ryan Center in 2004 is hanging in the Hard Rock Cafe there.
That's awesome.
Like that was I'm like, this is cool. And the people that were like, that's really not that cool. And I'm like, it's on the wall of a Hard Rock Cafe, and I've held it. Like
that's a good party story right there. That's fun.
Yeah. So it's been a minute since I've been in New York. I was excited to try to get up there, but you know, it happens. You know, life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah, things definitely get crazy. But yeah, man. I mean, like I was only there for like 2 days, and you can't do much in 2 days. We went to MoMA, saw about 4 floors out of the 6, but we just were so like overwhelmed and like enjoying ourselves, but we just realized that we just weren't taking any more art in at some point. You know,
I'm surprised you got through 4 floors. Like honestly, that should be an achievement in itself. Because
it was some good shit. Yeah. Well, the thing is like you just kind of peek in just to be like, oh, maybe one more, and then suddenly you see something that catches your eye, and the next thing you know, it's been another hour that you've been looking in the museum. So like, it was crazy. But without getting into like nitty gritty details, like I ate at a couple of cool places I'd never eaten before, drank some beers I'd never drank before, and like it's hard to describe it and give it any like weight, because like it's Times Square, it's what you think, but it means so much more like being there in the middle of it. It's that weird feeling of just like that group mentality, like everybody is just not drunk but basically group drunk, right?
Yeah, it's not really drunk. It's more like what does Edward do to Bella? You're glamored. You're glamored by the spectacle that is Times Square. I get
and like being there, like the different musicals will like do random stuff on the street just to promote what's going on that night, and there's all of this crazy stuff right now on Broadway. We saw stuff from Beetlejuice. We saw there's still Lion King playing, but now there's also Aladdin and Frozen also playing. There's still Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is still going strong out that way. Hadestown is one of the like new big ones that I was super interested in. And like, man, there was just so much. It was just so much.
Is it Cursed Child or Cursed Child? I understand that it's British, but you're the first person I've ever heard refer to it as that. I like it better as a title.
I think in terms of like, it's for me, it's not because that's the proper way to say it. It's the proper way to say a Harry Potter title, like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. You know what I mean? Like you put that like weird emphasis.
The syntax of the Harry Potter title is not Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. It's Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So there's just fun emphasis probably on my part.
Yes, that's fine. I prefer that title. I just can't believe in
awesome and like
in the time.
There was no way we were gonna. Oh yeah. But there was like no way we were gonna get into that thing, right? Like the line was around the block just for people just trying to get in. Never mind people who'd already bought tickets. So we just walked by the theater and like they just redid everything. You could see like the whole lobby had been done up to look like people entering Hogwarts, and then like all of the doors they literally etched into the glass the Hogwarts symbol, at least the symbol that not one that you would recognize, but definitely the one the show is using as the Hogwarts symbol. And it was actually super cool to see a bunch of like different artwork. That's another thing. Like Harry Potter having new artwork in the books alone has already been like super controversial for people. So getting to see even more like different authorized artwork was really cool.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, man. But it's just all still kind of a blur too. You know, like I said, I'm also dealing with jet lag because
Yeah.
we only just ended like 2 hours ago and then like flew home and now here I am.
Well, only boring people are brilliant after jet lag. Devon Decker said it. Yeah. So I guess, is that my cue to like take on something else to talk about? It's
Well,
hard not being able to see you to read my.
No, I'm curious where you want to go, but yeah, like what's up, man?
Well, there's so much. Like, I saw 2 movies in the theater last week that I'd love to talk about both of them. I saw 2 movies for the first time in preparation for a film that comes out this weekend, and I have strong opinions on these films.
Oh, I'm curious.
So is that the page we want to turn to first?
Yes,
Is
definitely.
Devon Decker watches Bad Boys as a 34-year-old man?
Oh man, I didn't realize you'd never seen the other two.
Nope.
Okay.
I hate the Bad Boys movies. You can put them in the same box with Dreamgirls. They're not good. They're like, I don't know how they're a cultural touchstone. And maybe I only think they're a cultural touchstone because people have told me that they are.
No, I mean like there's a reason why Hot Fuzz is so heavily influenced by it, man. And like you're not wrong on that reading. Bad Boys 2 specifically, and I think what it is that I should clarify that statement. I think Bad Boys the original movie is the cultural touchstone, but Bad Boys 2 is the one that Hot Fuzz is more influenced by, I think. It's because I want to clarify that because I think the first Bad Boys movie is a more than decent buddy cop like thriller.
I don't
believe
what I mean? They're friends. I don't believe that they've been partners for 6 years, let alone friends since high school. They're like strangers that whole movie. And okay, and let's talk about the big issue that I have with Bad Boys. And that is the whole you have to pretend to be your partner because we can't find him.
Right.
And then
which is the plot line of that story, of that movie.
Which is the plot line of that movie. And then but as soon as Will Smith is found, I feel like you could come clean with Tia Leone. And let me tell you though, that's why she became Madam President. You didn't see Hillary Clinton jumping off no Biltmore into a pool the way that Tia Leone did.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Well, I look. I think is what we're seeing here is a case of if you watched it at the time, it is something that's just kind of nostalgically embedded in you, and going back to it, it doesn't work anymore. Because I mean, like, yeah, man, the whole plot line is like super upsetting in a lot of different ways. Like all of the stuff about like prostitution and stuff that's involved in it, and there's just some legitimately fucked up stuff that they do in both of those movies. Like it's definitely got all the trappings of a 90s action movie of like, yeah, this is actually kind of fucked up in retrospect. But the thing is, we love those movies because we grew up on them. But you didn't, right? Like, you didn't grow up on Bad Boys as part of your repertoire.
Yeah, I can't believe that people my age saw that movie. Like, my next door neighbor, like, totally based his personality on Mike Lowry, Will Smith, from that movie.
Okay. Oh,
and it's
man.
just like, and it's like to see it, it's like upsetting. And I'm just, I didn't get it. And then there's a lot of homophobia, but I know like that was just the joke in the friggin' 90s. Is that like, we don't want people to think we're gay.
Right, but that's exactly the problem with the whole movie is that it is the 90s encapsulated. And I mean, a lot of that is due to the fact that we're talking about Michael Bay here, right? Like, am I misremembering
It's
that?
Michael Bay's first movie.
Yeah, like this is like, I mean, we're talking about a guy that famously sticks to stereotypes as the butt of the joke. I mean, like, this isn't even like a critique on his filmmaking one way or the other. It's just a fact. Like, I mean, we have had issues with things like racist Transformers in the past and like weird like characterizations of side characters, all that sort of stuff. So I mean, like it's par for the course, man, with him. I think that's part of it too is it embodies such a very specific element of American cinema, and I don't know, like I don't know where you fall on that particular element of like Michael Bay being basically a category of film.
Yeah, I mean, like I like the Transformers movies. I
Yeah,
saw the Transformer movies, all five of them. Bumblebee is a different category.
yeah,
I'm upset that they're going to be doing the whole let's go back in time and make it so Bumblebee actually is part of this
yeah,
thing. Like they talked about maybe doing that, and I think they'd be foolish to do it.
yeah.
And I don't. It's just I don't know. So like I saw those. I loved Pain and Gain, but like
Mhm.
you're not supposed to be rooting for those guys. You're supposed to be laughing at how big an idiot they are.
Yeah,
The whole
they're the bad
film.
guy. Yeah, they're the antagonists of their own story for sure. For like it's weird because when that movie was first getting made, they were like from the guys that brought you Bad Boys, but it's not really like Bad Boys. Like they're not supposed to be the heroes that you're see like they're not. Yeah, it's a very weird. It was a very weird comparison, but I think that Pain and Gain works better under the Michael Bay formula of the guns and gals thing that he
Right.
does, right?
I mean, I think that that works at Armageddon too. The real thing that stood out for
I
me.
disagree, but yes. But anyway.
I'm just saying. I mean, granted, but I saw Armageddon way after the fact too. I
Yeah,
watched Armageddon for the first time, 2015, and
yeah,
I like enjoyed it. I didn't feel like squishy about that film at all.
yeah.
But the thing that really struck me about these, I can get there. I have words. It's gonna work. Oh, is that Bad Boys is 1995,
Yeah.
and I spent a year and a couple other weeks visiting 1995 in Ian Softly's Hackers.
Right.
So like I have a very good idea of a type of 1995 in cinema, and Bad Boys is like everything you liked about Hackers is going to be the opposite of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably like apt to point out that we're talking about like a film that was made to appeal to one subsect of humanity and another that was meant to appeal to another. Like there very much is a sense with Bad Boys that Michael Bay is trying to create that buddy cop movie with an African American uh, emphasis. I don't know like what the right word would be here, right? Which is like Hackers is so the opposite of that like I don't know, there's something to be said about that, the fact that they're kind of facing two different audiences.
So I guess it's, if I had to like really just point the finger, is the fact that Bad Boys, and we're talking just Bad Boys, because Bad Boys 2 is a whole other kettle of fish that I'd love to dump
Yeah.
all over the audience right now. But Hackers is very diverse in a way
Hmm.
that like is surprising to me. It's sort
Yeah.
of like the Fast and the Furious movies, where they have one of the most diverse casts in cinema, because you have like Michelle Rodriguez and you have Gal Gadot and you have Han. You have all these different people. Anyone can watch the Fast and Furious movies and kind of feel like they're represented in some way.
Right, right.
So Bad Boys, you look at it as this movie where like, well, there's representation, right? Because
Hmm.
the only black cop I really think we saw up to that was Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop, which
Right,
is one of the things that influenced this film. They're
right.
they're like not afraid to like shout that from the rooftops. And Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon,
Exactly.
1, 2, and 3 up to this point.
Hmm.
But I mean, I think the issue, and Dale actually brought this up, and she's like, we don't see their relationship build. We come into it in progress. So the fact that you feel like it's not believable that they feel that way is because they don't do the stuff that you see in like Lethal Weapon, where it's establishing them coming together,
Right,
or
right.
Hot Fuzz, where you're getting Nicholas Angel meeting Nick Frost character. I can't think of his name, Danny.
Danny, yeah.
And
But I think the context that you're missing, and this is not by any fault of your own, and the movie is definitely to blame for this, is that it's also banking on Martin the faces of Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, and that off screen, like there was already kind of a sense of that kind of like camaraderie and these black comedians that both had really successful TV shows on at this point, and they were coming together finally for this movie. And Will Smith will just charm the pants off of anybody in any interview ever. So like him selling that movie based on this friendship that you were kind of told was there, right? And that's what that movie kind of depends on, you being in that cultural moment of knowing about these two finally coming together for a movie, that you don't need the story of them coming together because you've been spoon-fed it for the last 6 months through all of the marketing for this film, right? And like again, the movie is at fault for not doing it on its own, but like back then it wasn't even a question that they were friends, because as far as I had known, they were friends off screen, right?
Yeah, and I could get that. I can see that. The zeitgeist being a thing, but then
Right.
when you're basing, understanding of a film on that, it's something that we talk about a lot, is where, I mean, it's why people are having an issue with Rise of the Skywalker, where, like, Palpatine is given really no explanation. You're just expected to know who he is because he was in 5 other movies.
Right.
And that should be enough for you. We say the name Palpatine, you're aware of his sins, there's the character development. And that
Right.
doesn't age well, as we've seen. That
Yeah.
same, where like, I mean, because I see Bad Boys, I watch Bad Boys for the first time, and Martin Lawrence is credited first. And I'm like, well, that makes all the sense in the world,
Right.
that it would be Martin Lawrence first. I mean, even if you're just going alphabetical and that's the reason, but Martin Lawrence had his show longer, but he had also had the comedy specials. I can't think of the name of it. Run Tell Dat, is that what it's called? Is that Martin Lawrence's?
I think so. I'm blindfolded, dude. I'm not looking this shit up.
Yeah, but that's true. But like, and then
Yeah.
he's in like Do the Right Thing. Like he's
Yeah.
in movies before
Right,
that,
right,
and
right.
this is really, I mean, I'm basing this also on Jersey Girl, where Ben Affleck is like, the Fresh Prince is gonna do movies, and he's not even like thinking about that, and
Right.
is like, well, he's gonna be an Independence Day in the
Right.
timeline of friggin' Jersey Girl.
Right. Right.
And I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
and the other issue, and like that same thing, is that I've seen Will Smith in better buddy cop things, because I've seen Men in Black 1, 2, and 3,
Right.
where it is Will Smith like feeling more affable, feeling more like approachable, and being in these situations that are serious, but like finding a way to cut the tension. Where every time in Bad Boys 1 and 2, the little jokes that they're sporting, it's like, guys, this is not the time for that. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't
No,
feel
no,
like this is the time for what you're doing.
Look, at the end of the day, I just don't think Michael Bay is a very good filmmaker. And like, I don't know, fight me, I guess. But like, I'm not a huge Michael Bay fan in any real fashion. And so like, I just think that Bad Boys is just not as well a made film. I just think that it gets fondly remembered because it's at that time in the 90s when films did not have to be made well for them to become beloved,
Right. It's 80s movie syndrome. And we
Yeah.
saw a lot of that in the 90s. We talk about that a lot with Brendan Fraser stuff and other things. So I'm the schmuck who fell across a movie in the 90s that's made really well. And I am. I'm talking about Hackers. I'm not even ashamed to say
Yeah.
that. That it's like it's really well constructed. The world makes sense. The stakes seem real. And then to watch Bad Boys, which is the same year, and for it to feel the way it feels, is just Drake hands.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest about it. But then we get to Bad Boys 2, and now Bad Boys 2, for all intents and purposes, all I could think of was the Before trilogy from Richard Linklater. And the fact that like 8 years have passed, just
Yeah.
like between Before Sunrise and Before Sunset. It doesn't really feel like that time has passed in universe. It's weird that it's ecstasy. It's super weird that it's ecstasy that they're like trying to stop.
Yeah.
Not to say that ecstasy isn't as like potentially harmful as heroin, but it's
Yeah.
not.
But no,
It's
I think the reason that ecstasy gets chosen, at least this is the justification that I like, is the idea that when they make Bad Boys 2, it is a completely fan service film. It really is. Everything about that movie is they're coming back together. Honestly, the first movie could be argued that it was really just kind of fan service at the time for those two actors. But like, but this whole thing is really when they're making Bad Boys 2, they're like, we're doing this because we know we're gonna make a buck off of it. Michael Bay is at the top of his game. Will Smith is no joke. Martin Lawrence has still got a good movie every few years in him too. Like this is the time to do it, right? And so in that there's a lot of stuff within like the story, within the jokes, within the filming that are all kind of these weird throwbacks to the 90s, which in and of itself, as you said, feels like it's a throwback to the 80s. So like there's this weird sense of like things that are done, said, chosen to do, filmed, everything that just feels kind of weirdly like out of place and out of time because it's not a, when was it made? 2003?
2003.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's not a 2003 film. It is a 90s film that just happened to be made with 2003 like technology essentially, right? Because that's really the only part of it that feels like it's a very 2003 film is Michael Bay gets to do a little bit more of his like swirling shots and stuff like that.
Oh my god, that scene in the rundown pink house with
Hmm.
blondie dreads, where the camera's just like, I'm spinning around,
Hmm.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
nothing is happening though. All of the action is the camera. Will
Yeah.
Smith is standing up against the wall, and the Haitians are like, "Yeah, load your guns," and I'm
Yeah,
like,
Michael Bay hates exposition, and so he tries to do whatever he can. He thinks everybody hates exposition as much as him, so he's like, I got to do something interesting to keep people like
oh my
listening
god,
because they need this information. And it's like, no, man, if you just trusted your audience to just listen, we'd be okay. But no, no, he
yeah,
can't
it's
do it.
just that whole thing, like the car chases, the
Hmm.
fact that the drug dealer guy, Johnny Tapia,
Yeah.
doesn't know that they're cops until like 10 minutes are left in the movie. Like,
Yeah.
he just thinks they're a couple of gangbangers. The
Yeah.
fact that they're called gangbangers, the fact that they pretend to be exterminators and Martin Lawrence watches a pair of rats fuck.
Yeah. Well, so Jesus. So taking it on this note of you're not enjoying either film, I think you can still at least agree with me that what Bad Boys 2 essentially feels like is Michael Bay saying, I have improved upon the original. I have distilled what made the original good into a better movie. So basically, like, ignore the first one. Bad Boys 2 is the one that I really, really meant to make the first time around, right? It just, and that's what that movie always felt like to me, is I was like, oh, this is what he wanted to do 10 years ago, but he just didn't have the backing to do it. He didn't have the ability or the knowledge of how to do it, some of this stuff. Because you better believe that some of that shit that, like, happens in that movie, like the spinning camera and stuff like that, that would have been huge for him. The contrast that he uses in order to bring certain colors out and stuff like that he ends up like overusing in a lot of Transformers scenes. Like it's very, it's so Michael Bay. I gotta say, like the one Michael Bay film I think I enjoy is The Island with Ewan
Oh,
McGregor,
I
and
love
it's
The
like
Island. That's
and,
such a good
and, like,
movie.
right, right, and I think the reason that so many people hate it is that it's Michael Bay doing some really interesting stuff with plot and stuff like that. Like yeah, and so a lot of the stuff that like I don't like about the Bad Boys movies either, but I don't mind them. They don't offend me in any way because like again I grew up on them. So like when the guys want to make a fucking reference to Bad Boys 2 and Hot Fuzz, I can still get behind that nostalgia. Like it doesn't like throw me for a loop or anything.
Yeah, I think it's because like Hot Fuzz is one of my favorite movies. I didn't do myself any favors. A week earlier, right, we were flipping through the channels, and it was Keanu Reeves buying his surfboard, and suddenly the Deckers watched all of Point Break.
Yeah, yeah, nice.
Like, and Point Break is awesome.
Yeah.
Point Break is a fantastic movie. Even my mother, like, stopped what she was doing and sat down to watch Point Break with us because it's a good film. And, like, to think that Danny holds in the same esteem Point Break and Bad Boys 2, like, it kind of, like, I'm like, oh, so they gotta be on the same
Oh
level.
no. But what it is that Danny is getting the wrong message out of Point Break the first time around. Like it isn't until what happens between him and Simon Pegg in the movie,
Nicholas
like
Angel.
Nicholas, right? It's not until that moment where it happens between him and Nicholas that he truly understands what Point Break is all about. So I think it's actually this beautiful idea that like what he's getting out of Point Break is only the same thing that he's getting out of Bad Boys 2, which is not the right thing to get out of that movie, right? Like. Yeah. I think it shows how naive he is about the whole idea of the badass cop.
Right. I mean that's his whole character. So it just, but it was just one of those things where I'm like, oh man, it's got to be good. And like, I've tweeted with Edgar Wright about like other movies that have influenced his work, and like Sharky's Machine, which is a Burt Reynolds movie that I love. That like I struggle to find people who even know it exists, let alone seen it.
Oh, Archer loves it.
Well, of course Archer loves it. Yes, I'm just going to line up all the fictional people that I could be best friends with. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. That sounds like there's my goal in life. Gonna meet Sterling Archer, and we're gonna talk about Sharky's Machine. After we deal with Gator McCluskey.
Oh my god. I would fucking pay so much to see this animation. Just what I meant to say. Oh, anime too.
And he would just mock me the whole time. He would just make fun of me. Like he makes fun of Bilbo, right? That's the character name.
Which you'd also be able to get a few jabs in at him, which would also.
Oh yeah, fun. That's true. I'm quicker witted than Bilbo ever was presented. Also, I know that Archer is just like acts like the coolest guy in the room, and I actually am. Take it, Sterling. You're named after a dog.
Oh shit!
Wow, we just made some fan fiction. I'm not
better than Bad
that.
Boys 2. Yeah, man. Like I get it. Like not getting into Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2 does not surprise me. As I said at the beginning of this thing, it's I think the love that is there for it, and maybe I'm being unfair to it, but I think the love that's there for it nowadays is really just falls firmly in the nostalgia. Like I remember watching this, renting it from Blockbuster Video on a Sunday afternoon type of thing.
Yeah, no, I again, I completely understand. Like that, it's definitely because I'm watching it as an adult that it's not working for me. Because, like, even I told my father, I'm like, I watched Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2, and he's like, those suck. And I'm like, all right, so you were close to my age when you watched these movies.
Right,
like,
right.
There's an age group that these films are for, and I get it. But the big reason why I did it is because a new Bad Boys movie comes out on Friday. The terribly named Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah.
Because it's the third movie.
Because it's the third movie, right?
Which is why...
They've kind of fucked themselves if they want to make a fourth.
Which is why... And they are making a fourth. The fourth one is in pre-production.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, if this movie bombs, that won't happen. Just like the Answer the Call sequel, right?
Yeah.
But, so, like, don't count your chickens. But, yeah. It's this thing. There was, like, Bad Boys for Life. No, you wait for the fourth movie to call it that. Which is why I'd like to, and it's going to be hard because we're blindfolded, so, like, we're just going to have to go until it naturally ends. When I go to see that movie, I'm going to say, give me a ticket for Bad Boys Dark of the Moon. And I'd like to encourage all of the other listeners to order a ticket for the third Bad Boys movie with the subtitle of a third movie.
So
Sejohn, do you have an example?
I just want to be clear here. Are you hoping to frindle this so that eventually the production company is like, well, I guess we got to change it to this because that's what everybody's calling it?
I mean, that'd be wonderful. Really, I just think that we should all refer to it as, like, give me one for Day of the Bad Boys.
Day of the Bad Boys. The day the Bad Boys stood still.
But that's not. But the day the Bad Boys stood still, the day the Earth stood still is the first movie. It needs to be the third. So it needs to be Bad Boys Chapter 3 Parabellum. That's all.
Do Bad Boys Cubed like Alien?
That's good. See, that's good. You're kind of getting it. Bad Boys the Next Level. That one though, don't do Bad Boys the Next Level. There you go. He's getting it. Bad Boys the Return of the King. Bad Boys the Battle of the Five Armies.
Oh man.
I'm just
Bad
saying.
Boys: Revenge of the Sith.
Yep. But like, be careful. Don't
Oh,
order one for Bad Boys: Rise of Skywalker or Bad Boys: The Next Level, because those movies are still in theaters, and you might not get a ticket for Bad Boys. Bad Boys: The Last Stand. Bad Boys: Apocalypse. These are all acceptable titles to call Bad Boys 3 by. Anything except for Bad Boys for Life. Because, why? Like, I get it. I gotta tell you, the title Bad Boys for Life says to me, the fourth movie is in pre-production, but we don't think it's gonna happen.
I am curious if maybe this is like these two just doing their final, and if the pre-production on 4 is like a new batch type thing.
Well, it totally, the trailer for Bad Boys for Life, I just totally killed my thing. Bad Boys Little Fockers is them like training a group of people like to be the new Bad Boys.
Right.
Like, it's a passing of the torch. You know, it's Bad Boys and the Last Crusade, really.
Yeah.
And it's,
I mean, if it's a good movie, those will end up being the villains. But no,
yes,
if that's the case,
just
then
like in Expendables 3, almost.
almost. Yeah, no, I think the passing of the torch happens in this one then for sure, like you're pointing out, and yeah, so I can totally see them being in a pre-production, and I can even see it not necessarily having to be a huge success for 4 to just happen then, you know, because at that point you got new blood that you're dealing with, and a cheaper movie to make because you're not paying Will Smith and Martin Lawrence to be in it, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's BBIB 3. I like that one. You know, because they're black. They wear a lot of black clothes, the Bad Boys. But yeah, that's what I'm asking. I implore anyone who goes and sees Bad Boys for Life this weekend, ask for your ticket as a popular third movie title. Bad Boys: The Dream Warriors. Bad Boys: The Season of the Witch. This is fun. This is literally all Dale and I did on my
Bad
birthday.
Boys. Oh, so you've been cheating because you've already had answers.
No, well, yeah,
Bad Boys and Season of the Witch. There it is. Bad Boys Season of the Witch I like though because of the songs. And then you do a mashup of the two as the as the theme song for that movie.
Bam. Mic drop. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, Bad Boys Infinity War,
Mike
Bad
Lauer.
Boys Civil War, Bad Boys Ragnarok. Yeah, it's not like I have a list, and even if I had a list, I'm blind right now.
Yeah, I believe that now.
I am. Yeah, come on. I have an eidetic memory. I can remember all the stuff I came up with.
So, I want to transition into some stuff because we talked about people watching movies and getting all the wrong messages out of them.
Oh, good. Look at you.
And so I think that's a very good transition for us to maybe start talking about some Oscar stuff that happened.
Oh, this guy. This was a good episode for us to do Blindfolded. Because I don't think either one of us has committed the nominees to memory.
No, but I've got a general sense of them and some of the discussions that we've had before, and we've talked in the past about how we don't feel like going that deep into Oscar stuff anymore. Yeah, I mean, like, so I don't know where we landed on the idea of Joker maybe possibly getting some Oscar noms, but guess what? If we
it got the most.
It got the most.
11 nominations. It's gonna have those stupid TV spots, and now it's the recipient
I don't think there's any
of
chance,
11 Oscar nominations.
I don't think there's any chance in hell that we're gonna see it lose all of those.
I think that he's gonna win Best Actor. I don't think that there's anyone else in the field that would take away from it. I think that one of the reasons everybody's mad that Adam Sandler didn't get a nomination, I feel like one of the reasons is because there was only so much of a pool for it to go to somebody like that, and Joaquin Phoenix soaked up all of the life before, Adam Sandler came in and Uncut Gems to get the juice. The juice was gone.
Yeah, so I think yeah, we're staring down the barrel of the Oscar-winning film Joker, which it'll be the first major Oscar probably for a superhero movie, if you can even call it that.
Well, I
But
mean,
that's going
you
to be the
have.
talk.
I mean, it's so we're considering the posthumous supporting actor for Heath Ledger. That's not a major
Well,
award.
no. I think that like that people have been waiting to see what was going to happen in this new wave of superhero movies because like Nolan's Batman movies exist in a weird bubble of their own, and I think that that's fair to say, right? Like you can't hold them up to the Marvel universe or the DC cinematic universe. You know what I mean? Like it was a pre-universe world that those movies were really kind of existing in because Marvel, while they did it start them at the same time, Nolan was going on a very different path, right? And it was actually kind of exciting. DC saying at the time, we don't want to build a universe. Like these Batman movies exist in a world where probably Superman can't even exist, right? That was really exciting to see up against
And it's
Marvel
exactly
saying,
why Marvel said, well,
right,
we're going to build a universe then.
right,
DC,
exactly,
you
right. So
morons.
those movies were, and this may be me imposing some shit on it, but I feel like those movies were allowed to exist in like an awards season in a way that the we're connecting all of these movies things doesn't seem to be allowed. And I don't know if that's because like people feel there's a lot of marketing that goes into that weird stuff, and so that kind of detracts from it. I mean, Marvel's just been like struggling to find that in to some of these larger categories for years, and DC I think beat them to it. A movie that they're claiming is not in universe, but now has been doing so well that they're already talking about sequels. And like, there's this weird aura around Joker that didn't exist before I think like, Avengers really kind of took off and all of that sort of stuff. Like, so Heath Ledger winning for that. And didn't Jack Nicholson, what happened with him and when his portrayal of Joker, like he won a bunch of awards for it back then too,
Yeah, I'm
right?
pretty. He at
Like,
least he got nominations. I
like
don't know if
Jupiter
he
and
won,
stuff like
but
that.
yeah.
Like, but like he got recognized as well. So it's not like this character is like also. It's not too odd for this character to draw this kind of attention either, right? It's really weird now in this post world where it's like, well, Marvel basically did their entire thing and really never got this kind of recognition, right? And so now here we are staring at DC looking at just yet again the Joker pulling in this kind of this they're never going to be able to match that probably, right?
To the
Marvel, I mean.
fact that I had forgotten that there was all that talk about award Oscar pushes for Robert Downey Jr.
Hmm.
and for Endgame when
Hmm.
I saw the list of nominees today.
Yeah.
Because I saw the nominees and I'm like, this doesn't surprise me at all. These are
Yeah.
all the movies that I expected to see nominated.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for me this year is there's no real big surprises. I think the only disappointment for me is Joker, but like I could have seen that coming, and disappointment's not a fair word. Like I clearly did not enjoy that movie in the way that the rest of the world seems to be enjoying that movie. And so I've kind of come to accept that. So I'm not surprised at all to see it where it is. But yeah, there really isn't a thing listed that really kind of like caught me off guard.
Well, for in terms of disappointment, I'm disappointment. I'm disappointment. I'm disappointed that it's only 9 nominees in Best
Mhm.
Picture,
Okay.
so that like there was a slot for Knives Out, and I
Hmm.
think that Knives Out was a very like deserving film, and the
Yeah.
fact that I think it only received 1 nomination overall
Yeah.
for its screenplay is
I
very strange to me.
I wonder what kind of push they made with it, though. Knives Out is very much the stories of Knives Out has very much been Ryan Johnson trying to get out from under the shadow of Star Wars, right? Like him trying to like do his own thing again and survive post whatever happened with that last, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was very much an idea where like they didn't really promote it too much. At least for the circles that I roll in, like I knew it was coming, and I was tangentially aware that he was making a new movie. But to be entirely honest, I have actually not yet seen a preview for it, and I've been to tons of movies this year. Like I feel like I don't want to say they hid it completely, but I feel like they were not putting it out as in front as much, and I feel like that's part of it not being nominated for Best Picture. I think is directly because they've really not been doing much to get behind that movie. I think the mere fact that he is recognized as it for Best Writing is awesome because like I think that might be that might just be completely coincidental that people just enjoyed the writing so much that even though they hadn't been pushing it, like I wonder if they put out for your considerations for it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I know that they did because I know a bunch of people who finally saw it that way.
Yeah.
But the fact that the words I used to describe that were finally getting to see Knives Out,
Yeah.
it speaks to people not knowing it was out there or people not having the drive to go out and see it in the theater.
Yeah.
Um, it's
And
one of
again,
those things.
purposely so. I don't think that that movie has failed in any way. I mean, we're talking about it being nominated for an Oscar. It's just that it definitely was one of the ones that they kind of kept on the back burner so that people were not paying close attention to it, close enough attention to it for my liking.
Yeah. And it's also you need to consider the fact that the way that the Oscars work, it's different classes that decide really. It's not everybody in the Academy saying let's do it. Like there's a heavy focus on I believe the production guild that leads towards best picture. I know I read a couple of articles about that today cuz I'm not surprised at any of these.
Right.
Yeah,
no, I mean,
the most surprising thing is that I've only seen 5 of them. Is I mean, I haven't seen either of the Netflix ones, right? Because Marriage Story and
3
The
actually.
Irishman. No, My Two Popes was not nominated for Best Picture.
3 Netflix films. Klaus got nominated for Best Animated.
Yeah, but Klaus is not in the Best Picture.
Oh no, not in the Best
That's
Picture.
what we're talking about. That's the category that I'm talking about.
March.
Yeah, no. Klaus being nominated over something like Frozen 2 makes me very happy.
Yeah.
Especially that they're not letting like Disney rule that category by having it as Toy Story 4 and Frozen 2, and the argument could be made for Lion King.
Right.
That they went with the one that, for all intents and purposes, was the most meaningful of the animated releases from Disney this year. Yeah. And I'll go to bat for Toy Story 4 all day.
Yeah. I think out of the 3, it probably is definitely the most impactful. Frozen 2 did exactly kind of what they expected it to. Lion King, I think you could say flopped in a lot of ways.
It's the most profitable animated film ever.
Right.
So,
in terms of the money, they did fine. But I think that Frozen 2 made a lot of people happy. Lion King has not.
Lion King, and I don't know. People really had an issue with the fact that they were photorealistic.
Yeah.
Whereas, I loved that. I thought it was great. But here's something cool. I will say this is cool. Scarlett Johansson, and I'm not a huge fan. I'll say that but her being nominated as the Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress for 2 different roles, that is very cool to me. Yeah. And I can't think of the last time that ever happened, where someone was nominated in both of those categories.
I am excited to see what happens with Jojo Rabbit too. So there's a couple of movies that I'm actually kind of rooting for this time around. Knives Out, we talked about Jojo Rabbit. I'm excited to see what happens in the animated series. A lot of the really good stuff coming through on the shorts this year. I'm lucky enough to live in an area that's really into film. With Sundance starting here in a couple of weeks again, and so getting to see some of the odds and ends stuff that now is in the Oscars is pretty cool. So there is actually a weird little bit of excitement for me on these awards. I got to tell you, I still have no interest in watching the actual ceremony. I just want to know what's going to happen afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think like I said, I made my decision 2 years ago when I decided to race in Link to the Past, as opposed to watching the Oscars.
Right.
And I got to tell you, I'm happy about it. I was thinking, I don't know what I was watching. I was watching some film, probably Like a Boss, because I saw Like a Boss this weekend.
Nice.
That's a stinkeroo. That's not a good film, and I'm disappointed to say that. And it's not any of the performances. The Rose Byrne and Tiffany Haddish and Selma Hayek bring it 100%. The problem is that script doesn't give them anything.
Ugh,
it's it's scattershot. It is not cohesive at all. There's no one that you root for or root against. It just sort of exists. Okay. I can't remember the last time I saw a film that just sort of exists. And when I'm watching a movie that's just existing in front of me, my mind tends to drift.
Yeah.
And my mind drifted to when I was working in an office and the nominees came out, and I printed them, and my boss saw that, and he's like, you're really not supposed to be using, company stuff to do that. And I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry. But then he's like, do you want to have lunch together today and talk about them? Because I didn't realize. And I had this great discussion with him about the films, and it's one of my coolest memories, because there was a little part of me that's like, I'm about to get fired right now because I printed out the nominees for the Oscars, and I didn't even really care then. But then
Right.
to have that conversation, I'm like, that was a cool moment. But now years later and removed, it's just become so muddied that I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And that's sad in some ways, because it was fun to seek out and try to see the films. I would still able to see all of the short stuff because we had the cable car, and they would do the shorts packages. And I'd be surrounded by a lot of people who didn't understand film at all.
Yeah.
Who were oh, I'm going and it's going to be great. And then they'd talk throughout it. I yelled at the guy sitting next to me, go home. I want to watch this.
Yeah, man.
Sorry, I'm all over.
No. I am definitely more excited to see the results than I am about watching any ceremonial stuff. I'm just kind of over it, and I've already talked about kind of my distaste with what happened with the Globes this year, and it seems to just be getting weirder and weirder with them, Rush announcing the Amy Poehler and Tina Fey this week and all that, and I don't know, it's been weird.
Yeah, I didn't. Are they're hosting the Oscars?
No. They're going to host the Globes next year. After
Gotcha.
there was an immediate response to the internet backlash on Ricky Gervais, and there wasn't much of one, but the immediate reaction was they basically signed Amy Poehler and Tina Fey immediately to host next year.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that makes sense. It's NBC that does it, and
yeah,
they're gonna want, with Peacock coming out, they're gonna want all this. But yeah, you're right. I'm done with the ceremony. I don't. It doesn't mean as much to me as it used to. Even though I didn't like a Boss, I'm glad that I saw it, and I saw it because I made the decision to. It was weird that every January I was essentially getting homework.
Yeah.
And I think where it came to that pinnacle was a couple of years ago, where the list came out and I had already seen everything, and I'm like, so I don't need them to tell me the movies that I have to see.
Right.
I've developed the skill to know what I should or shouldn't be going to.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, interesting thoughts about what that means in a lot of ways, shapes, and forms.
I'm done with the Oscars.
yeah, let's not talk about them anymore. This is it. Yeah. This is it for the Oscars. So even if you talk to us online, neither one of us wants to discuss the Oscars. You know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about my latest acquisition. This is scary because it's right. I got him. I went to the semi-famous Jewett City Flea Market yesterday.
Okay.
Semi-famous because it is 3 floors. It's a 3-floor indoor flea market.
Jesus, that's crazy.
There's a lot of stuff.
How do they lug all that crap and all those folding tables and all that shit upstairs?
A lot of it lives there forever.
Yeah.
And that is the interesting part about it, because there were whole sections of it that were just covered with blankets. Mm-hmm. And this is not open today. Yeah. Because the person is not here to be open.
But I have permanent booth space at this thing because I've been here since the beginning.
Yeah. And it's and there was a lot of that stuff where it's no one's buying this, but it just, you have nowhere else to go with it.
Right.
It lives here now. So that was cool. But what I found, and I'm very happy about this, is an original 1990 movie star Turtles Raphael.
Yeah, I saw it. The second you sent him, I was like, that's movie quality right there.
He is the only, even though Raphael is easily my favorite turtle, he's the only one I never had a movie star figure of.
Really?
So when I'm going through the toys yesterday, and it's hard because I said I'm not going to buy any toys in 2020. 2020 is 2020. Yeah. 2020 also works, but I'm never going to say that again.
Yeah, thank you, please. You upset me.
I found it, and it was $3, and I'm like, oh, but I got to make good on my promise. And then one of my friends was like, I'm buying it for you. And I'm like, nice. That's a loophole. and I can get behind.
Yeah,
And then
man. I mean, like, I loved it. The second you sent it, it was like the quality of like the shadows on him, and like he looks dirty because like they look dirty in that movie.
yeah, they also have the spots because
Right.
one of the ways that they masked the foam for that film was by giving them spots to like, well, they look more realistic as turtles. It also masks like just terrible parts of this costume where joints
The texture
are.
issues,
Like,
yeah, the real terrible texture issues in that movie. Oh
yeah.
man.
So I was super happy to find that, and it was a cool flea market. Like I had a good time. But you know the reason we went is I have a friend who's like trying to find booth space, and
Okay.
you know for newer products, and that's not really. It doesn't seem like the kind of place where like newer products go.
Right. Right.
So it's cool. Like I've gotten to go to a lot of these like various things like that because he's been doing that, and it's been fun. It's been fun to like go out there and just to see this whole section of humanity that like I kind of haven't been a part of since the Rocky Hill flea market went away, and it's nice.
That's
So
rad, man.
yeah, I think
Well, excellent.
excellent indeed. Anything else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No, I want to talk about that off mic. I don't want to share that with you. No, I do have to share something.
Okay.
So as we close on our third year of podcasting together,
Hmm.
yesterday driving home, I loaded up one of the podcast episodes that we did on Two Friends and a Couch. It's called The Two Friends in Sejohn. It was one of the times that we had Sejohn on the couch with us, and it's fun to listen to. Like I really enjoyed it. But this specific episode of that show had a moment in it that I had to bring up here today.
Oh no. Oh no.
It is exactly 44 minutes into this episode.
Okay.
We are discussing Deadpool, the Deadpool movie.
I feel like you're about to be like, "This is your life." Like,
It feels like this is your life, right? No. We recorded this episode of Two Friends on a Couch the day after the Gincident. Hashtag Gincident.
right.
So we reference that lost footage a bunch,
Yes.
but we also can't talk too deeply about Force Awakens because my co-host at the time, Nikki, she had not seen it yet and was like, I don't want anything spoiled, even though I don't like Star Wars. And I got that, and we were both very respectful of that. So we kind of turned to talking about Deadpool, and both of us emphatically at the 44-minute mark of this episode are like, there'll never be a Deadpool 2. This is fan service. This is a one-time thing, and they'll never make a sequel.
My theory in life is if you're gonna be wrong about something, at least be happy that you're wrong about it.
Yeah, and that was exactly how I felt. Was like, wow, we were just so committed to that idea that like it's gonna happen and it'll be fun, but I don't see this ever getting another chance at this. They put T.J. Miller in it, for Christ's sake.
Right. Yeah.
Direct
Yeah,
quote from me. So it was fun hearing that it's not new. It's not new for us to make these wildly like out there claims about what Hollywood and culture is going to do, and just end up with egg in our face as we eat our crow sandwiches.
Yeah, man.
And it made
No,
me very happy.
like I said, I just whenever I make drastic, outrageous predictions like that, I hope that people understand that I wouldn't be upset to be wrong. Like it's not, I'm not staking my life on these like assumptions. Like when I talk about like Joker not being my favorite thing, right? At the end of the day, I'm still happy it exists, and like I hope people realize that like when I talk about how Deadpool is not a thing I think they can make a movie out of, and then they turn around and make a movie out of it, I'm not upset.
Oh
I
no,
was
no, no,
wrong.
no! We were both all on board for the first Deadpool movie. We were both excited about that. It was specifically that Fox would not be able to like have enough
Right.
interest in there being a sequel.
Right, and then, but that's what I mean. Is like,
Yeah, I
is,
got you.
is
I got you.
being wrong about that? Right,
All
I'm
about it.
about
And
that.
I'm actually really happy that you clarified regarding Joker, because as far as I was concerned, you did not like that movie. There was no love lost between Sejohn and Joker.
No, like I really like it's not. I don't like that movie, but I also am not.
But you don't want to go back in time and erase it from the timeline.
Right. I understand why everybody is so on board with it. I understand like the appeal of it. I understand that like it's going to change things with the way that DC does things in the future, and I don't hate that because they needed something to shake it up. Even if it is a movie that I don't like, at least it's going to lead to some interesting new developments in how they make their movies going forward. So that's really nice. So like, yeah, there's definitely good to be coming of it. And I mean, like, you know, end of the day, as I said, I have to recognize the fact that clearly my feelings on it are not shared by many.
Yeah, well, they're certainly shared by me. I just found it boring. Yes. And maybe that's the best indicator of the fact that it is an Oscar film.
Well, and we talked when we first talked about Joker, and I said it left me with this feeling that I think a Joker movie should leave me with. I'm still feeling that confusion, contemplation, that unsettling, upsetting nature. And I don't mean upsetting in that it offended me, but I mean upsetting in that it is upsetting the balance of things. Like, it is a movie that I found completely boring, but here it is. It seems to be one of the most celebrated superhero movies of this particular era, you know? And so like, I feel like we've gotten into the golden age of comic book movie making, right? And like that, it seems to be held up as a high example of that. I think it should be kind of upsetting to me, you know what I mean? Because the character of the Joker kind of commands that kind of response.
Sorry, I fell asleep there for a second. It's very dark.
Nice.
Which is probably a good time for us to wrap this one up. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we
No, I mean, watch the Oscars and tell me how it turns out, guys. I'm not saying don't watch the Oscars. I'm just saying I won't watch the Oscars.
And I am reminding everyone to go out and see Bad Boys for Life. But when you do, make sure you order a ticket for... I don't have one, and I'm very upset about that.
There it is.
Bad Boys: A Twist in Time.
Bad Boys: Dead Men Tell No Tales?
Well, it'd be at World's End.
At World's End. Damn.
Bad Boys at World's End. Great title.
There it is. That's what we're going to end on.
All right. So if you want to yell at Sejohn about anything that he's talked about this week, he's on Twitter at Siege versus the World.
And if you want to hit up Devon and not talk to him about the Oscars, then you can find him at Devon D. Decker.
Yeah, you tell people not to talk about something. That's the quickest path to that conversation starting. So thanks, Sejohn. You're a
welcome.
Good friend. All right. And now I send you off to Will, who I'm going to get to see tomorrow. Have a great night, folks.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host, Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.